As the COP29 Global Climate Conference enters its second day in Baku, Azerbaijan, protesters have accused the host country of greenwashing. The Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg appeared at a demonstration in the Georgian capital Tbilisi today. She said petroleum exporting Azerbaijan, where such dissent has been suppressed, is more concerned with securing oil and gas investments than with solving the climate crisis. Azeri officials said that their capital was chosen because of its green energy initiatives, while showing few signs of weaning the country off of petrodollars.
The world has to move away from oil and gas. But Azerbaijan has made clear it has no intention of changing its business model for the sake of the climate. 60% of government revenue come from fossil fuels, which are the main driver of the climate crisis.
Having oil and gas deposits is not our fault. It's a gift of the God.
The NGO Climate Action Tracker gives it the worst possible rating for climate protection, critically insufficient. Azerbaijan's emissions are set to rise by a further 20% in the coming years, see the red line. In purple, the country's own climate targets, a far cry from the emissions reduction Azerbaijan needs to aim for to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, shown here in green. COP29 president and chief negotiator is Mukhtar Babayev, Azerbaijan's Minister for Ecology and Natural Resources and former official of the state oil company. Analysts are concerned.
Climate negotiations only work if you have a very strong and very credible and very trustworthy presidency. Azerbaijan is not that. It's a fossil fuel country. It's an autocrat country. Human rights are difficult. And they are displaying themselves better than they really are.
Meanwhile, the human rights situation in the Caucasus country is disastrous, say experts. Numerous political prisoners are in jail, where many are being tortured, say human rights organizations. Critics say they have been systematically silenced, particularly in the run-up to the climate conference. Among them, Bashir Suleimanli from the Azerbaijan NGO Climate of Justice Initiative. Forming a coalition, we wanted to draw attention to these problems, highlighting the need in the country for an environment where people can express their opinions, voice their grievances, raise issues and comfortably express themselves. Naturally, before we could achieve this, it was stopped. People were arrested. Reporters Without Borders press freedom ranking also paints a grim picture. Azerbaijan takes place 164 out of 180 countries. The petrostate has also been rated as one of the most corrupt in the world, according to a Transparency International report. And then there's the conflict with neighboring Armenia. Just last year, Azerbaijan took over the region of Nagorno-Karabakh, which led to more than 100,000 Armenians fleeing. The outcome of the climate summit does not depend solely on the host country. To prevent devastating floods, as seen recently in Spain and Brazil, and support countries hit by climate catastrophes is the responsibility of high-emitting nations, namely industrialized Western countries, as well as China and oil-rich Gulf states.
All right, I want to bring in now Madhura Joshi, a senior associate at India Energy Transition League. She is in Baku at COP29. It's good to have you with us. Tell me about your first impressions. Has Azerbaijan's role as host, has it influenced where this meeting will end up?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. I think what we see right now in terms of the agenda for COP29, we know that the urgency of action is really critical. We are coming to COP right now on the back of extreme weather events with devastating floods, record-breaking temperatures, that have strained economies and exacerbated in energy and economic insecurity. Hence, I think as the climate impacts mount, it becomes abundantly clear that the world must accelerate climate action. And I think you can see that urgency for the need to accelerate climate action and as well as finance climate action. So I think from that perspective, there is definitely urgency within the room.
But
irrespective of where the COP location is.
But it comes in stark contrast to the fact that the host country, Azerbaijan, is a country that is awash in petrodollars, fossil fuels. I mean, is there a contradiction there in terms of advancing the goals of mitigating climate change?
I wouldn't say there is a contradiction, but in fact, this is the challenge that we are looking to solve, right? As Azerbaijan's heavy reliance on fossil fuels in both terms of trade and domestically is going to be unsustainable in the future. And what this requires is both an increase in renewables, in clean energy solutions, transition planning for that, along with phasing down fossil fuels. And this is something that's going to be emblematic to all countries that are reliant on fossil fuels. Yeah. So I think it's not just Azerbaijan, but it is also other countries that will need to work on production, consumption, demand. And I think there is progress happening globally, but a lot more needs to be done to get us to the line and keep the Paris temperature goals alive. Yeah,
Azerbaijan, is one of the many countries that has seen its greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise. Does that make it, perhaps ironically, easier to address the issue of CO2 emissions at this conference?
I think addressing CO2 emissions is, it's a larger, you have to target figures, but essentially the route to get there is through accelerating mitigation action, something that was spoken about in COP28 in the energy package. This requires a full package approach. You need to triple renewable energy, you need to double energy efficiency, along with phasing out fossil fuels. One cannot happen without the other. And I think what we see in this context, even for a country like Azerbaijan, the current renewable energy contribution is about 2%, I think, from the energy mix. They've taken some plans on increasing the renewable energy capacity. They have targets of about 5 gigawatts of wind and solar projects by 2030. However, there is a lot that can be done. And I feel that COP is a venue that can help in demonstrating what the art of the possible is. Yeah. What are the steps that are needed to implement the COP28 package, which helps us in meeting the 2030 clean energy goals, but also helps us in tracking the route to phasing down fossil fuels by mid-century. And I think from the point of view of securing the supply of electricity, supply of energy, it's becoming increasingly clear that investment in renewables is going to be key. And I think it's more of an opportunity for Azerbaijan to use this platform to also grow and figure out their transition plans.
Madhura Joshi, Senior Associate at India Energy Transition League. We appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We appreciate you sharing your insights as well. Thank you.
Thank you.